Bonjour à tout le monde et bienvenue dans une autre réunion de midi à la Commission européenne. Merci de nous suivre également en ligne et en direct sur Europe by Satellite aujourd'hui, mercredi 6 octobre. Let me start by reminding you that today President von der Leyen, together with High Representative Josep Borrell and Commissioner Varhelyi, is attending the EU Western Balkans Summit. Presidents von der Leyen and Michel will hold a press conference at the end of the summit at 1:30, together with Slovenian Prime Minister Janša. You can, of course, follow this press conference on Europe by Satellite. Then the EU Sustainable Investment Summit will take place tomorrow in Brussels. This is the first of a series of annual events on sustainable finance to be hosted by the European Commission. President von der Leyen will participate to the summit. She will in fact deliver the opening address tomorrow morning. Executive Vice Presidents Frans Timmermans and Valdis Dombrovskis will also attend, as will Commissioners Gentiloni, Ferreira and McGuinness. In addition, many different policymakers, entrepreneurs, investors, financial institutions, civil society representatives, and citizens will exchange ideas about how to unlock investment and finance the acceleration of the transition towards climate neutrality. So a very rich program for this first Sustainable Investment Summit that we are hosting tomorrow. You have more details about it in our daily news today. And of course, you can follow the event on Europe by Satellite tomorrow morning. Et puis finalement, je tiens à vous rappeler que les ministres de l'Environnement se réunissent aujourd'hui à Luxembourg pour leur première session sous présidence slovène. Le vice-président exécutif Timmermans et le commissaire Sinkevičius y participent pour le compte de la Commission. Les ministres discuteront notamment le paquet ajustement à l'objectif 55, donc les mesures que nous avons présentées au mois de juillet dans le cadre du pacte vert européen. Ils vont également discuter la nouvelle stratégie de l'Union européenne pour les forêts à l'horizon 2030 et ils vont discuter de l'augmentation des prix de l'énergie en Europe à la demande de plusieurs États membres. Les ministres approuveront aussi des conclusions en préparation de la conférence COP26. Une conférence de presse suivra les sessions de ce Conseil de l'environnement. Le commissaire Sinkevičius y participera. Elle aura lieu ce soir à environ 18h30. Évidemment, vous pouvez la suivre sur EBS et comme la tradition le veut, je vous inviterai à garder des questions sur les sujets qui sont discutés par les ministres pour cette conférence de presse. Et avec ceci, je suis prête à passer aux éventuelles questions que vous pouvez avoir pour nous aujourd'hui. Je me tourne d'abord vers la salle. So, Nikolai, go ahead.
Thank you for giving me the floor. Nikolai Nielsen, EU Observer. Earlier this year, Commissioner Varhelyi confirmed in a parliamentary response that the Libyan Coast Guard would be receiving 3 new patrol boats. Have they been delivered? And if not, do you know when they will be delivered? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will invite Anna to provide you the answer that we are in a position to give today.
Hi, so the only thing that I can say for now is that we had delivered 3 boats that had been rehabilitated in the framework of the UTF program, but the new vessels have still not been delivered to my knowledge. I'm glad to check, but I'm quite certain that they have not been delivered yet, and I don't think we would have a specific time frame now to do it, but I'm happy to touch base with you when there's more details as to when this will happen.
Nikolai, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So earlier this week, the UN Human Rights Council said conditions in Libyan detention centers amount to a possible crime against humanity. given the fact that the Libyan Coast Guard are intercepting people and returning them to detention centers? Do you still intend on possibly delivering these 3 new boats? And if so, does the Commission believe it bears any sense of moral or ethical responsibility in the matter? Thank you.
Many thanks for the question, Nikolai. I think that we've had quite a few number of times the chance to respond to this situation. I think that the position of the European Union when it comes to the detention centres is well known. We absolutely think that these detention centres should be closed. At every time that we have a chance, and there have been quite a few opportunities to exchange with the Libyan authorities on this case, continue to pass this very firm message that conditions need to improve in the detention centres up to the point until these detention centres can be closed. This is a very clear message that we're passing, and we will continue to pass. Now, when it comes to support for the Libyan Coast Guards, I think that we've already tried to explain many times that the main aim of this support is actually to help contribute to saving lives in the area of responsibility of the Libyan Coast Guard, so their internal territorial waters, and this is very much still our main objective today. I think you know the responsibilities of each of the actors, and I think that I would probably stay there.
Thank you very much, Anna. Nicola, you have another follow-up. Go ahead.
Thank you for that. So in July, the Libyan Coast Guard were filmed shooting at a migrant boat. At the time, Peter said that you are currently verifying the facts and the circumstances relating to that incident. So what are the conclusions, we're 4 months later, what are the conclusions of your analysis of that shooting? You also asked the Libyans to carry out an investigation into that shooting. So have they done it, and what are the conclusions of that investigation? Thank you.
Thank you, Nicola.
I think here I will probably have to check where we are in this, and I don't know if Peter might have any additional elements. But again, I think that the aiming of our trainings is precisely that human rights and the international standards are respecting. I think this is a very clear objective from our side, and we will continue discussing every time with the Libyan authorities to make sure that they understand that this is also a priority for the European Union.
Thank you, and you will provide a complement of information in relation to that investigation. I believe that Peter, who's connected, can add some information as well. So Peter, are you there?
Yes, hello, good afternoon. I hope you can hear and see me.
Yes, all good. We can't see you, but we can hear you, which is already a good start. Go ahead.
That's good. So the update was provided already a few days after the incident Nikolai just mentioned, because the Libyan authorities themselves acted. They criticized this incident. They said it's not in line with the rules of operation, and they took an action which was relieving the responsible commander of duty, and they issued also a corresponding press release and statement about it. So the issue has been solved, and since then we haven't seen similar incidents, and we were in touch with the Libyan authorities also on other issues. So there was a proper follow-up, and the issue has been explained, and those responsible for it have been taken to account for those actions.
Thank you very much for your very useful compliment, Peter. Are there any additional questions on this matter specifically? So please only keep your hand up at this stage if you have a question about this issue. That is not the case, but I have Anna with me on the podium, so please now raise your hand if you have any additional questions for Anna on other matters that she covers. And there he is, Mose. Go ahead.
Thank you, Dana. Yes, I don't know, I missed past your introductions. I don't know if you mentioned say today's EU Western Balkan summit, and I would like to ask more about the press arrangements today, and also if Anna can comment on what is going on there about the European perspective for the candidate countries, and whether there is or will be, let's say, a kind of breakthrough for at last organizing this intergovernmental intergovernmental conferences for Albania and North Macedonia to start the accession process and the negotiations with them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mose, for your question. Indeed, we started the midday briefing today by giving out information about the EU Western Balkan Summit, which is taking place right now as we speak in Slovenia. It wouldn't be wise and it wouldn't be appropriate for Anna or for me to comment on what exactly we would expect that summit to conclude on in relation to the perspective of accession for the Western Balkan countries. You know very well what is our position on this. The President has done an extensive tour of the Western Balkans countries. She was there last week. She visited all 6 partners there. She gave very clear statements as to our desire and her personal desire to see the Western Balkan countries joining the European Union. Her hope that the accession negotiations with Albania and North Macedonia can be started through the launch of an intergovernmental conference rapidly, so before the end of this year. And we are doing all we can from our own perspective to help achieve that objective. As for what exactly the leaders will conclude on today, I will invite you to wait until 1:30 when the press conference will take place, summing up the results of the summit, and President von der Leyen, together with President Michel and Prime Minister Janša of Slovenia, will take place at that press conference. Thank you very much. Are there any additional questions for Anna? No, at this point in time. Yes, George, go ahead.
Being able to have the camera on today. Question on behalf of the Cyprus News Agency today for the first time. Has the Commission seen reports that Turkey has turned away a Cypriot research vessel that was operating under a Maltese flag, conducting surveys connected to the East Med natural gas pipeline, which is a project that is being supported by the EU? And I would like a question on the context of the EU following the stability of the region and, of course, the ongoing review of EU-Turkish relations. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question, George. I would invite you to patiently wait a few minutes because that is actually a question for our colleague Peter, who is connected from a distance. So hang on, stay with us. I'm going to invite now additional questions for Anna because she's on the podium. And I believe that Oliver has a question for Anna because his hand is up. So Oliver, go ahead. Nope, he put it down. So then thank you very much, Anna. That concludes the questions for you today. And therefore, I will invite Peter to take George's question on Turkey.
Thank you, and apologies for the camera. It seems that my computer now doesn't want to allow me to open the camera. But anyway, you are very well aware about the last EU conclusions or European Council conclusions from June on the issues where the EU leaders have welcomed the escalation, but stressed the need for the de-escalation to remain sustainable. And they also said that they are ready to engage with Turkey in a phased, proportionate and reversible manner. Based on certain conditions. One was the sustained escalation, another was constructive engagement and abstention from unilateral actions or provocations against the EU or its member states in breach of international law. So these are the crucial conditions which still remain in place and are taken into account by the EU member states and their leaders in assessing the situation. You know that this is not one-off process, this is an ongoing process, and the leaders are watching the situation and eventual decisions on the way forward and about the possible next steps in this context are in the hands of the leaders.
Thank you very much, Peter. Are there any additional questions on this subject for Peter, Turkey? That is not the case. Are there any additional questions on other foreign affairs matters? Anne-Laure, go ahead.
Anne-Laure Désert de l'AFP. Je ne sais pas si ma question est pour Peter ou pour Adalbert, parce que c'est à propos du forum de haut niveau qui est organisé demain par le haut représentant et par la commissaire Johansson. Je voulais, parce que j'ai vu qu'il y avait un point presse qui était annoncé pour demain à 13h, et le forum est appelé Forum européen de haut niveau sur la protection des Afghans en danger. Donc je voulais savoir de quoi il s'agissait exactement, de quoi s'agissait. Est-ce qu'il s'agit de réinstallation? Est-ce qu'il faut s'attendre à des promesses, à des engagements de la part des États membres sur l'accueil de réfugiés afghans? Et quels sont les participants et à quel niveau? Merci.
Merci beaucoup pour ta question. Alors, c'est effectivement une question pour Adalbert, mais il n'y avait pas d'autres questions pour Peter, donc je l'invite à me joindre pour t'apporter une réponse.
Bonjour Anne-Laure. Si je ne m'abuse, nous avons publié, ou nous sommes sur le point de publier, un communiqué de presse qui répondra à toutes tes questions. Donc je t'invite à le consulter pour des informations détaillées sur ces questions.
C'était bref et clair. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions pour Adalbert aujourd'hui? Yes, I see a question from Lukasz. Lukasz, go ahead.
Yes, I have a question on the situation on the Polish-Belarusian border because on Monday the director of Frontex, Mr. Leggeri, reviewed the Polish border guard near the Belarusian border, and he said that he's impressed by means deployed to secure the border, and he also thanked Poland for cooperation with Frontex since the beginning of the crisis through ongoing exchange of information and providing the agency with the data on the situation of Polish section in the external border. So I remember that the Commissioner Johansson raised some concerns about the situation. She asked about the more transparency. She met with the Polish Minister of Internal Affairs. So my question is whether after this visit of director of the Frontex and commissioner in Poland, do you have still any concerns regarding the cooperation with the Polish authorities? And do you see any problem with the lack of transparency? Do you have any concrete questions to the Polish government regarding the situation? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will, of course, not be commenting directly on anything that the executive director of Frontex has said. What I can refer to is, first of all, the statements that Commissioner Johansson made yesterday in the plenary of the European Parliament, where she reiterated her view that transparency is extremely important in the management of the situation, that we need to protect our shared border with shared EU resources based on shared values, and we need to do it in a way that shows that we, the European Union, are based on other values, on the rule of law and in full respect of fundamental rights. Now, when it comes to our cooperation with the Polish authorities, there is a technical trip happening to Poland right now, today the 5th and the 6th of October, with experts from the European Commission. The delegation from the Commission met with Frontex yesterday to discuss this visit to the border, and then this morning they met with a representative from UNHCR, from civil society, and in the afternoon they will also meet with the experts from the Polish Ministry of Interior and representatives from the Polish Border Guard, and that indeed follows the Commissioner's visit to Poland last week. Now, the aim of this visit is, of course, to enable us, in cooperation with the Polish authorities, to make a strategic assessment of needs on the ground and to discuss factual and legal aspects. And for now, I cannot prejudge the outcome of this visit as to what exactly the result of this assessment is going to be. Of course, as always, when talking about the situation, I need to recall something that we all know in this press room, but that still is very important, that the reason why the situation started is because of actions by the Belarusian regime, whereby the EU is obviously strongly rejecting any attempts to instrumentalize migrants for political ends.
Thank you very much, Adalbert. Are there any additional questions for Adalbert? on this matter? Yes, first Lukáš has a follow-up question, so go ahead, Lukáš.
But I have a follow-up because as far as I remember, the Commissioner Johansson asked about the engagement of Frontex on the border, and this was also the topic of her meeting with the Polish Minister of Internal Affairs. So now we have this visit of the director of the Frontex on the border, and he said that the situation is okay. So my question is whether Commissioner is still asking Poland to cooperate, to better cooperate with Frontex, or Frontex to be engaged on the border. Thank you very much.
As the Commissioner said yesterday, I will repeat, we must protect our shared border with shared EU resources based on shared values. And I think that that shows that we believe still that it would be a good idea for the Polish authorities to request Frontex assistance. The EU resources remain at the disposal of Polish authorities. However, it is also their decision to request assistance or not, as they see appropriate.
Thank you very much, Adalbert. Are there any additional questions for Adalbert on migration issues? This in particular, the situation at the Belarus border. Yes, I think Lawrence, you want to take part in this discussion, so go ahead. I'm sorry, Lawrence, we can't hear you, though we can see you rather well. We can still not hear you, so you can try to select another mic source. I will get back to you later. Thank you very much. Now, please raise your hand if you have any other question for Adalbert on migration relation matters. That's not the case. Thank you, Adalbert. So please now, we are open to broaden the discussion to other issues. And well, I see that Oliver has waited for a long time. He was patient. Go ahead, Oliver. Now it's your turn.
Yeah, hi, thank you. Two questions. First one, can you give us an update where we are with the Hungarian and the Polish recovery plan deliberations? And secondly, I think that would be probably a rule of law question. A court in Slovenia yesterday ruled that Prime Minister Janša's decision to annul the appointment procedure of the two delegated European prosecutors that were supposed to work in Slovenia for the European Prosecutor's Office, that this was illegal. Basically, what Janša did was against the law, and that basically the procedure should be reinstated. So the two prosecutors that were already nominated by the government in, I think, last year, at the end of last year, should get a second shot at this. Slovenia is the only country that has nominated them. Does the European Commission intend to put a bit of, well, let's put it differently, to encourage Prime Minister Janša to live up to his own promises and to his responsibilities vis-à-vis the other European Union member states? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oliver. In relation to the first question, I can tell you that we have no update compared to what we have been telling you over the past days. So the situation is the same. The Commission is engaged with the authorities in Hungary and in Poland over the analysis of the assessment, the evaluation of the national recovery and resilience plans as submitted by those authorities. So the exchanges continue. We assess the two plans against the criteria in the regulation with the aim of having the best possible plan benefiting the Hungarian and Polish citizens. If you have additional questions on procedures or details, I will be happy to also invite Verla to provide those details to you. But in the big scheme of things, there are no updates, no changes compared to the previous days. Now, in relation to the second question, to the European Public Prosecutor and the situation in Slovenia, Christian joined me to provide you an answer.
Thank you, Dana. Yes, Oliver, I have a short, but I think quite clear answer on this. We take good note of the decision of the Slovenian court from yesterday. we expect the Slovenian government to follow up on that decision without any further delay.
Thank you. Short indeed. Are there any additional questions for Christian on this matter, the European Public Prosecutor situation in Slovenia? That is not the case. Are there any additional questions for Christian on other matters that he covers beyond the one that we discussed? That is not the case either, so thank you very much, Christian. And now I would like to give the floor to Daniel. Do we have Daniel connected online? I am told, Daniel, that you do not have the right audio source, so you will need to change that because we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Now is good. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much for giving me the floor. My question is on climate and the EU's commitment to the Paris Agreement. So according to the NGO Climate Action Network, 7 EU countries did not come forward with their long-term national strategy to reach the Paris Agreement targets. Luxembourg would be one of them. So my question is, can you confirm? And what is the Commission intending to do about that, knowing that the deadline to submit these strategies has been in January 2020? And could you also clarify maybe the timeline of the Commission for the assessment of these strategies? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tim?
Hi, Danielle. Yeah, thanks for your question. I mean, we also saw this report, which you mentioned from CAN Europe, about the long-term strategies. And of course, it's important to the Commission that these long-term strategies are submitted by the member states because they do play an important role in our planning and in our green transition. As you note, Luxembourg has not yet submitted. It's one of 7 member states which hasn't yet submitted the strategy. You know better than I do the national procedures in Luxembourg, but my understanding is that there is actually a public consultation going on a first draft of that strategy. So the assessment which the Commission is doing of those that have been submitted is ongoing. So obviously I can't comment on what this NGO has said about the specific plans. In terms of timing, there will be the Climate Action Progress Report and the State of the Energy Union report published in the coming weeks. When I have a more precise timeline that I can give you, I will be happy to do so.
Thank you very much, Tim. And I believe that Daniel has a follow-up question, so go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. I just wanted to clarify, since the deadline has expired since a very long time, are you in touch with those member states and, exchanging on the reasons, and are you putting pressure on them to come forward with the strategy? Thank you.
Yeah, so we're naturally in touch with the member states, and we are encouraging them to come forward with those strategies as soon as possible. And as always, the Commission is ready to provide any technical assistance and advice that is needed by member states in that process.
Thank you, Tim. At this stage, are there any additional questions for Tim on climate, Paris Agreement, and our international commitments? So please only keep your hand up if you have questions for Tim on this or on other matters linked to energy, perhaps. I think that Anya has a question for Tim. Anya, go ahead.
Hello, yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you and we can see you well.
Thank you. Yes, indeed, I have some questions on energy, on the situation with the rising prices of energy. I just wanted to ask you what exactly the Commission can do. We heard about some ideas like common purchases or common stocks of gas, but also about the change in the way the market works, so not to index the price of electricity to the price of gas. Is there anything that the Commission can do here? And also there are some member states who ask the Commission for investigation and checking what's going on with the gas deliveries to EU. Russia again, Gazprom announced that it's going to reduce the deliveries via this time via Belarus. Well, I just wanted to ask, is there anything the Commission can do as far as the contracts, bilateral contracts with Gazprom are concerned? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
for your very complex question. This is a matter that we have discussed in the press room intensely over the following week, of the previous weeks, for very good reasons. And this is a matter on which our members of the college have spoken clearly. Only this morning, the president, before starting the EU Western Balkan summit, she spoke out about the situation regarding energy prices. She said clearly that the situation is serious, and you know that we are now working at the Commission level to see what options we have to act in the short, medium and long term in relation to energy prices. We will come up next week with our communication in which we will say what we believe the options are on this extended and varied timescale. First of all, we will be looking at how compensation can be provided under existing rules at the national level to the more vulnerable households, because the first priority at this stage is clearly to reduce the burden on people who need to pay, in many countries, a much higher price for electricity than they were only a few months ago. So this is what focuses all our attention, how support can be provided to those who need it in the European Union. But the President and other college members have also clearly said that we are looking what we can do also with the medium-term perspective. We will look at all the ideas that were put on the table by the member states. We will look at the functioning of the energy markets. We will look at the suggestions that were made on reserves. We will look at the merits of all the suggestions with that clear aim to enable a good functioning of the markets and to reduce the burden on consumers. But what we have also said very clearly is that, well, the causes of the spikes in the cost of energy are clearly linked to the global energy markets. The gas prices have risen considerably, and therefore, from a very, very clear perspective, the solution to this, the long-term solution, is the European Green Deal, because the European Green Deal is about transitioning towards cleaner energy sources which are renewable. It's about reducing our dependence on imports of fossil fuels, and about achieving a cleaner economy and society at the same time. So we are looking at the short-term measures which can be taken rapidly. We are looking at possibilities to improve the functioning of markets if that is necessary in order to achieve the best results for European consumers. And of course, we are fully focused on delivering on the European Green Deal, because by increasing the share of renewables, in particular renewables produced in Europe, we clean our economy, our society, and we reduce our dependence on polluting energy sources coming from abroad. But we cannot give you any more details about the specifics of the options before presenting that communication next week. In relation to the second question on the inquiry of the gas markets, perhaps Tim.
Yeah, not very much to add on that. I mean, we've also been asked previously in the press room. So there was a letter which was sent by a group of MEPs to Commissioner Vestager and Commissioner Simpson. And we are looking into that letter, looking into the issues that are raised there. Commissioner Simpson mentioned actually in the Parliament plenary this morning that the long-term contracts from Russia are being respected, although there seems to be no extra capacity being booked at the moment. But as I say, it's something that we are looking into based on that MEP letter, and we will follow up in due course with them.
Thank you very much. Are there any additional questions on energy prices? Yes, Angela, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Dana. Good morning. Wanted to know, do you envisage any responsibility by Russia in the rising of the prices? I mean, Gazprom is cutting the deliveries. Putin is criticizing our approach, the European approach, saying that we are hysterical. Do you envisage responsibility by by Moscow, by the Russian authorities in this story? Thanks.
Thank you very much, Angela. What we are focused on is not to put the blame on anyone. What we are focused on is to find solutions in order to improve the situation for Europeans. It's a tough time for many households in Europe because of the rising energy prices, and we are looking very focused, very pragmatic on finding the right solutions. If that involves reassessing or rediscussing arrangements with our international partners, or what it would involve in terms of concrete actions, it's too early to say. But of course, we are looking from all perspectives, from the perspective of international markets, of supply chains, in order to find the best options that we can put on the table right now. But it's too early to speculate on what we will propose concretely next week. Are there any additional questions on this matter? Yes, I believe that Oliver has a question on that. Go ahead, Oliver.
Yes, wasn't this this report by the Commission, this position paper, whatever, planned for yesterday? And if so, why didn't you table it? And secondly, who is actually in the driving seat in the Commission concerning energy policy? Because I sort of, I mean, my mind is a bit boggled. I don't really know who's the leading commissioner. You have Vice President Timmermans, then you have Commissioner Simpson. At the same time, you have Commissioner Breton, who's very much in favor of nuclear energy. Some other commissioners are not. Isn't there a bit of a worry that responsibility for this crucial issue is a bit diluted? And in general, you talk about the energy transition, which is, of course, important, but people are already going cold now in certain parts of Europe. They will have to heat their houses now, so any green transition is not going to help them at all. You know, can we expect any immediate remedies that you're going to propose next week in the paper? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your questions, Oliver. First of all, on the timing for the presentation of this communication on energy prices. Well, as we said earlier this week, I think it was on Monday, the timing for when proposals or initiatives are presented by the Commission is always indicative. Because it depends on the maturity of the file, on the context, on additional discussions which we may need to have with our partners and stakeholders before actually making the proposal. So indeed, we have the plan to present the communication next week on the 13th. Because we are analyzing the options, as I said, and it was also useful to engage with leaders and others on what we believe is the right way ahead on tackling this extremely complex matter, which is that of energy prices. You also had a question about who's in the lead in the Commission. Well, let me start by saying that the College acts by definition as a collegial body. So everybody is involved in the discussions, everybody is involved in the deliberations, and the decisions adopted then by the College bear the responsibility and the engagement and the political responsibility really of all College members. Beyond that, you know that we have a commissioner in charge of energy, that is Commissioner Simpson. We have an executive vice president in charge of the European Green Deal, where energy, of course, is an important track and strand of work. We have angles which are linked to markets, obviously, because you mentioned, Commissioner Breton, we have an internal market for energy. There are trade-related aspects, of course, which involve the relevant member of the College, Executive Vice President Dombrovskis. There are innovation matters which are linked to energy. So, of course, there is a large panoply of angles, and there is a large number of college members that are concerned and which can enrich with their perspectives and expertise the deliberations that we have to come up with that communication. And on the last point, Oliver, you're absolutely right that the green transition, although it started, it's not going to be concluded immediately. It's a matter of decades. Certain countries are more advanced in Europe in changing their energy mix and in increasing the share of renewables to replace imported fossil fuel energies, whose spike in price has determined the current situation. So this is why I mentioned that we look at a whole panoply of measures, starting with short-term measures which can be taken under the existing legislation in order to compensate or to reduce the burden on vulnerable households, but also looking with a medium-term perspective to all the options that we have in relation to energy markets or other tools to make the market work and to produce what we need. And from a medium to long-term perspective, the change of energy mix under the European Green Deal. Are there any additional questions on this? Nawab, do you have a question on this? If so, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Dana, I want to ask you if you are also thinking of holding negotiations with the oil-producing, gas-producing countries, for example, in the Gulf region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nawab. I have no specific information to provide you about this. As I said, we explore all options that we have at various levels as Europe to secure supplies of energy which produce a less burden due to electricity prices on our households, but I have no concrete information to offer to you regarding contacts with partner countries in other parts of the world. Are there any additional questions on this? But that reminds me actually that Peter has returned from the Gulf region, where he accompanied HRVP Borrell, so perhaps he would wish to chip in with additional information. Peter, are you there? He doesn't seem to be there any longer. Yes, he is.
Yes, I am, but I was not able to open my mic because I'm in the hands of Jonathan right now due to reduced software possibilities on this program. But anyway, Nawab, indeed, I mean, this issue was raised by the High Representative. He was in the last few days in Qatar, in the United Arab Emirates, and in Saudi Arabia, which are all three countries very important players when it comes to energy supplies. And the issue of the energy prices and sustainability of the overall environment in this regard was raised and discussed. So yes, indeed, there are ongoing contacts between the EU and the partners in the region, and this discussion will continue. You know that the relations between the EU and the GCC countries overall are now on the program of the upcoming Foreign Affairs Council. So the issue is very much in the center of attention of the European Union, and the High Representative is doing the necessary outreach to the countries which have a role to play and which could be also very important partners for us in tackling this issue, not only regarding the electricity prices and the prices of energies, but in general when it comes to green transition, when it comes to sustainable energy, renewable energies. And these were topics which were discussed and will be discussed more and more between EU and the countries of the Gulf Cooperation Council.
Thank you very much, Peter. I would like now to invite you to ask additional questions on energy if you have any, since Tim is still on stage. No additional questions for you. Thank you very much. Now, Mindaugas has his hand up for a long time, so Jonathan, can you bring him in?
Yes. Hello. Thank you for the floor. My name is Mindaugas Laukagalis. I'm from Lithuanian National Radio and Television. And I have a question on health, COVID-19 certificate, because today many European countries have decided to provide the third dose of COVID vaccine to most vulnerable people, but a COVID-19 certificate system was designed when there was no talks about the third dose, this booster dose. So I have two questions on this. The first one is how will this third dose will be treated in COVID-19 certificates? And my second question is, a few days ago, the EMA has approved the use of this booster dose. So is the Commission talking about putting an expiry date to people who have only 2 doses of vaccine? Because now I think there is no expiry dates to COVID-19 certificates. So are you thinking of that? Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much. There are many angles to this question, but to address at least one or a substantial one of them, I am inviting Christian.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I would say, in general, this is very much work in progress, or there are discussions, of course, about this. As you rightly point out, in the digital COVID certificate regulation, this is of course not yet clarified, because this was long before there were even discussions about the third dose, let alone decisions about the third dose. And in any case, there is no expiry date set in there. The only date we have in there is for recovery, where there's a certain limit of half a year after recovery for the validity of these certificates. But also in view of evolving scientific evidence, this was not clarified in further detail in the regulation. We are, of course, following these developments very closely, and also the recommendations by our scientific experts, by EMA on European level. Well, at the moment I cannot give you any news updates on this. The regulation is in place. It is being applied. It is of course valid for the two doses, for fully vaccinated persons, as defined in the regulation. And if and when we have any possible updates to the situation from the certificate side, we will of course keep you informed.
Thank you very much, Christian. And let me also add that, of course, we are dealing with a situation which is moving and evolving all the time. Our knowledge and understanding of COVID-19 is evolving, and we are getting every day new information and new scientific evidence about immunity, how long immunity could last. Are we all equal in the face of immunity? Do we all keep immunity levels following illness or a vaccination for the same length? So all of these issues are being followed closely by scientists, of course by our agencies, and we keep a very keen eye on these evolutions to provide any updates as necessary to the tools that we have in place in order to enable safe travel around the EU. So, of course, we will stay tuned to see if the certificate and how the certificate would need to be adjusted to keep pace with our scientific understanding of this illness and of immunity to COVID-19. Are there any additional questions to Christian on this matter? I see a question from James. James has his hand up. So is it about this, James? If so, go ahead. It's not for you, so thank you very much, Christian. And James, go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon, James Franey from the Daily Mail. Very straightforward question. Does the European Commission believe that Britain is honouring its commitments on fishing? as per that agreement?
Thank you very much, James. Another question that we discuss here every day. I will be glad to invite Vivian to state our position as to where we are in our discussions about fishing with the UK.
Thank you, Dana. And thank you very much. Well, what I can tell you is how we see it on our side. The Commission remains fully committed to ensuring the full implementation and application of the Trade and Cooperation Agreement with the United Kingdom. And for us, of course, finding a solution and continuity to the fishing activities of the European fishermen and women remains a top priority. And with this, what I can say new compared to what we had been discussing last week is that the UK has now published their methodology, and we are discussing, in fact, our colleagues here in the services are discussing with the French as well as with the British and the Jersey authorities, really the differences regarding the rights of specific boats involved. So on our side, we remain absolutely engaged in making sure that we achieve a solution to this issue as soon as possible and make sure that the interests of our fishermen and women are respected in this. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. I believe that James has a follow-up question.
Yeah, just on the question of soon as possible. I mean, French fishing bosses have said this morning to France 3 that they're going to blockade Calais and the Channel Tunnel, which will obviously have huge impact on the flow of EU goods to the United Kingdom. I'm just wondering if the Commission, might be moving more quickly on this. You say you want to work through the methodology and so on. I just wonder whether you actually have time for that.
I think there you also know our answer. We don't answer to conditional questions. So to these if questions, where we are is that we are fully engaged. We are really in daily contact with the French authorities, with the British authorities, with the Jersey authorities in making sure that we find a solution to this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. Are there any additional questions on this? UK fisheries. I believe that James has another follow-up, so let's hear that.
Yeah, sorry to insist. I don't think it's really conditional. The French fishing bosses have said they will blockade Calais and the Channel Tunnel unless they get their permits inside 2 weeks. Those comments are all over French media this morning. So I'm just wondering what the Commission has to say on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James. Yes, we have seen various comments over the past days. As you know, we do not comment on those, but what we do is to stay fully focused on finding a way out. There are intense contacts and discussions, boat by boat really, to find a way forward, and this is what we remain focused on and not on commenting what many people around are discussing in relation to this issue. So there is nothing more than we can say. We proceed as quickly as possible and we have permanent contacts with our stakeholders on this matter. I believe Joe has a question now. He got inspired by James. Go ahead.
Hi, Dana. Thank you for that. Can you hear me?
We can see you all good. We can see you all good.
Yep, lovely. Great. So, Jim Castex, the French Prime Minister, has asked the EU to convene a partnership council and discuss basically measures that could be implemented, call it a retaliation, until this kind of dispute is resolved. I was wondering, have you reached out to the British to convene this council, or will you do it in the coming days? And that's basically it. Thank you.
What I can say on our side, where we are, is that we are discussing this issue that is at stake, meaning finding a solution to the pending licenses to the fishermen and women and to their boats. And this is what we're concentrating on our side, in our contacts with the British authorities, with the French authorities, and not to forget the Jersey authorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. As to the other part of the question, we have no comment on this at this stage. But Joe, go ahead. I think you have a follow-up.
Thank you, Donna. So would the European Commission support France taking unilateral action to kind of, as it feels, to create leverage in this argument say, for instance, again, Jean Castex mentioned kind of suspending bilateral agreements, so whether it be the Le Touquet agreement or more recent agreements on, say, migration. Would the Commission back such actions, or would you prefer if France left you to do all the negotiating? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question, Joe. I think that we have amply explained today and over the past days that we are at the stage of negotiation. We are fully focused through our contacts with all the parties involved in this situation to find a constructive solution, which is, of course, also to the benefit of our European and French fishermen whom we are supporting, but we have no comment to make on a possible next step should these discussions not achieve the desired result, because we are fully engaged in achieving a satisfactory result through constructive talks with all the parties. Thank you. Are there any additional questions on fisheries or the UK? That is not the case, so thank you, Vivian. Are there any additional questions on other matters for us today? That is also not the case, so thank you so much for the good exchanges today, and stay tuned for the press conference from Slovenia following the EU Western Balkans Summit, which will take place in about half an hour. See you soon.